Hello and welcome to Stormcast from Planet Waves. I'm Eric Francis Coppolino, your friendly neighborhood astrologer, here with the edition for Thursday, 2nd of January 2024. No. January 2nd, 2024. It's some date, some day, some month, and some year, somewhere here in the deeps of time, wherever we may be. Anyway, good afternoon and welcome to the first Starcast of the year. Today's edition accompanies the January 2nd weekly horoscope and my article assessing the milieu around the New Year's Eve incident in New Orleans, which also includes a detailed astrological summary. The way that I've structured the article, most of the non-astrological stuff is up top, and then I save all the technical details for the bottom part of the article, so I don't lose anybody who's not that interested in astrology. Of course, if you're not interested in astrology, I'm not sure why I'd want to read my articles. And if you think I'm technical, I do really, I'm really run mild to medium on the technical, and then I load it with context and interpretation. The way to learn astrology is to just follow along. It's a little bit like watching baseball. It can seem complicated, but then, once you figure out that the batter and the pitcher are on different teams, suddenly everything makes a lot more sense. Anyway, we're here in the early part of the lunar phase, the highly energetic new moon that took place on December 30th, the new moon conjunct Pholus and Quaoar, happening deep in the heart of the family Hunger Games cluster, and then also making aspects to numerous other planets. Really quite incredible. I made a proper list today doing a planets in degrees of signs. The new moon made aspects to Salacia, Ceres, Arachne, Pholus, Varuna, Quaoar, Pandora, Isis, Lilith, and Elatus, the mist leader. That's quite a few planets, minor planets, and asteroids. Some of them quite potent little worlds: Varuna, Quaoar, Pholus, first order of minor planets, and Jupiter in the mix there. So it should not be the least bit surprising that there was an incident on New Year's Eve. I don't predict these kind of things. I could say, well, look at this chart. Wait, what weekend is it? Hey, this is somebody's going to stir the pot. Someone or something is going to stir the pot. I generally don't go there, but I talked about the release of aggressive energy, defensiveness, and all of that, and there you have it. I'm wondering where we're going to decide is a safe place in our society. The whole purpose of a society is to keep its members safe from, invading marauding hordes and savage wild animals and pestilences and all of this. Our society seems to not be able to step up to that responsibility at all. Of course, most of the resources that we're going to work 2 days a week for, paying our state and federal taxes, are generally going to bomb other countries. New York, others and other states, not so much on the bombing, but for all the taxes that people in Louisiana paid and New Orleans businesses paid, and the amount of money that went to the police, they couldn't. They seem to have not been able to prevent this. And apparently, parking a police car at the intersection is not enough because the driver just drove around the police car. There are all kinds of portable barriers to deal with this. In the Planet Waves article, I provided a photo of the use of such barriers here in Kingston, which is kind of a miniature city, really 23,000 people. I went to SUNY Buffalo. The campus has got 30,000 members in the university itself, not counting the suburbs around it, just professors and students and staff. Anyway, I'm so sorry that we have to live like this from disaster to disaster. And what I've done in my article is I've written about the need to find an inner sanctum where this stuff is not so disturbing and where you're not so permeable to it. And it is the same inner sanctum that will help you avoid physical encounters with problems like this, because if you are tuned into your guidance, you'll know what to do, what not to do, where to go, and where not to go. I'm surprised anybody even leaves the house on New Year's Eve, but that's me. Outside is not the place I'd want to be. There were a couple of years we had a nice party right on my street. Like, I didn't even need to cross the street to get there. I just would step outside my door, and there was the thing. Those are like some rare exceptions when I went out. I don't see the appeal of driving or being in crowds, but again, that's me. I'm a little conservative in these things, and I like to calculate my risks and invest my good luck in things like journalism, not partying, right? I know I get so many chances. Cat has 9 lives. I will use mine when it comes time to get the story. Anyway, let's see. So I've gone over this chart in some detail, but more significantly is the milieu around it, the milieu of what it means to be living in this digital world where people are being hypnotized out of their self-awareness and seeking self-awareness through violent acts. And that's the one thing that argues for this being a lone actor. It's totally understandable from that point of view. Absolutely not excusable or forgivable, but understandable that this represents a state of mind in our society where people are really quite driven out of themselves and isolated and lonely and feeling like existence is meaningless. And this will lead to a wide diversity of desperate acts. And they'll all be colorable as some form of a lone actor. They always are. Okay, enough on that. I'm looking at a chart now, working at about 2:36 in the afternoon here in Kingston. And we've got Venus about to change signs. Venus will go from Aquarius to Pisces. That's going to be overnight, the 2nd to the 3rd. That's nice. Venus is a little bit dry and crispy in Aquarius, though it brings out a certain type of intelligence. It cools off what might be the kind of hot emotional intelligence of Venus under some circumstances. Though when Venus goes back into the sea, she's happier. Venus exalted in Pisces, therefore, one of the rulers of Pisces. So we will have that in our time of a gradually diminishing water sign presence. Important thing to remember about 2025 and 2026 is that we'll be experiencing less of the water signs than we have been. For example, Pisces Saturn now in mid-Pisces will move into Aries. Neptune in late Pisces will move into Aries Pluto is done with Capricorn. That was a feminine sign placement. And then Uranus and Taurus, that moves on this year. Uranus moves into Gemini. And the one thing being added to the water signs is Jupiter will enter Cancer. That is over the summer. So I've got a little time till that happens. All right, but speaking to the present moment, again, Venus makes her ingress into Pisces overnight. And then we've got Mercury hanging around the galactic center. This recalls the Mercury retrograde, which is still working itself out, and Mercury is about to make another conjunction to the core of the galaxy. This is the one where if you're a writer, an artist, a thinker, and whatever you do, keep your pencil and notebook handy, because the kinds of ideas that come along with Mercury conjunct the galactic center are the kind that you recognize as good ideas, and then you forget them. And so the only way to not forget it is to write it down. And this is an essential property of the galactic center, which is that it is what is brilliant and forgettable. And I picked up on this kind of commonplace delineation after having had figured out the galactic center many times, and then forgot what the delineation was. Okay, moving along. The essential aspect at the core of both the Tesla fire in Vegas, which happened a little bit later on the 1st, and the New Orleans truck attack, which happened about 3:15 on the 1st, that is Mars opposite Pluto. And so that is because Mars is retrograde and slow and powerful. Pluto is in direct motion, probably moving at about its top speed. They are matched enough in speed for the opposition to last for several days. So the opposition was well within the orb of 1 degree on the 1st, and it is so today, and it will be on the 3rd, that's Friday, and the 4th on Saturday. And then this opposition will begin to separate as Mars goes into Cancer on the 6th. Then Mars stations direct, I think, on February 23rd. Then in April, they make a third opposition. So the first one of these was on the eve of the election. And I was talking about how, and sorry for my voice, I'm still clearing some congestion out from a chest cold last week. This was, the first opposition was right on the eve of the election. And it seemed that there would be this kind of a prolonged drama. Owing to the proximity of this opposition on the eve of the election, Mars in direct motion in the last degree of Cancer, Pluto in the last degree of Capricorn. So the first version of this opposition happened with Pluto still in Capricorn. It was kind of the send-off of Pluto into Aquarius. And, you know, we are now in the couple of week run-up to the inauguration on the 20th. And so we are likely to see all kinds of antics and all kinds of shenanigans as there are two agendas going. One is to foment anxiety, unrest, and the sense that there is no safe place. And the second is to manipulate your opinion in certain directions. And so this kind of what used to be called disaster capitalism is still going strong. And then, you know, there's always somebody trying to sell you some idea about who you are, or some thing you're supposed to be, something you're supposed to believe. I'm pretty solid in who I am, and I'm going to tell you, it's still annoying. I cannot imagine what this would be like for someone who is not solid in who they are and who's constantly getting, basically yanked around and being given some new concept of their existence every single day, basically, and you have no idea what's true about you until you personally tune into yourself. So with Mars retrograde entering Cancer, this will help that. But what happens is the substitute for self-knowledge becomes rage. This is one of the reasons why rage is so toxic. It's not just because you can hurt yourself and others by being angry, you can hurt your relationships and so forth. It is that the rage is a substitute for something that's much more wholesome, much more productive, and much healthier, which is genuine self-inquiry. Another issue with rage is that it is self-proving. You think as long as you're angry about something or afraid of something, that's the thing that must be true. But this is not very helpful. There's no inquiry really involved here. If you're afraid of something or raging at something, that is not proof of anything, and it is not entitlement to anything, because both the fear and the rage also come along with a kind of a credit card of entitlement. And it is through this thing, this quality, this whatever you want to call it, that we are manipulated by external events. And at a certain point, most intelligent people get to the place where they're just sick of being manipulated by external events. But the problem is a lot of people have a really hard time giving up their supposed ideals. Their concept of right and wrong and who is not a good person, until they're conned out of them by something. And just as an example, I seem to be the only commentator who has talked about the very serious problems with Jimmy Carter and the Carter administration. I did an hour-long segment of that on Planet Waves FM the other night on New Year's Eve, and I will be doing. I'll be returning to the topic in a short edition that I've planned for tomorrow, where I take a look at his chart. And I am happy to see that most people are understanding of this problem. But one reader who I know represents many people, because her viewpoint is a very commonly held one, can't bring herself to admit that this person caused more problems than he was entitled to cause, and essentially sold out the United States presidency to this external organization. So our naive ideals, anger, and fear tend to be the means by which we are the most easily and most effectively manipulated. And the problem with getting out of that is that it takes work, it takes commitment, and it takes sustained thought. It takes the willingness to be wrong, and to basically go over things again and again, and to expand your knowledge base and expand your awareness base, and not come to conclusions for a while, and to hold open the space of uncertainty. I mean, if more people could learn just to do that one thing, just to hold open the space of uncertainty, and not rush in and fill in the blanks with all kinds of suppositions, we would be in a lot better shape. We would be less quick to come to false conclusions, and we'd be able to have a conversation without arguing. People also go to disagreement very fast. Well, I disagree with that. Well, who fucking cares? If you disagree with that, it doesn't mean jack squat. What matters is, can you establish your points of not understanding? Can you establish your points of contention, and can you actually hear the reasoning process and understand the facts of someone else? The problem with disagreeing is that most people are so busy disagreeing that they haven't sought understanding of what they're disagreeing with. It's kind of ridiculous, really. It's perfectly pointless to disagree with something where you don't understand what you're disagreeing with. So, look, we're really talking about a form of enlightenment here, and that is not earned easily. And the ego's defenses are pretty much always up. Its hackles are almost always up, and it's going to seek to defend its belief system, and the belief system of the ego is always based on guilt and death. So, hey, it's a great way of life if you're into guilt and death. All right, so on the 8th, what day? Today's the 2nd, so in range of this coming week, we'll be moving into Sun square Chiron. And that means Sun square Chiron and Eris. This is a plea from the cosmos to understand the plight of men. Every day I read something else, sometimes more than one article, about how hard life is for women, and how the implication is always that it's either easy for men or men are the perpetrators, and everything about women is wonderful except that they're victims, and so forth and so on. But there's not a lot of attention paid in this world to the plight of men, by which I mean all men, by which I mean your boyfriend, your husband, your cousin, your partner, your brother, your son. And Sun square Chiron is talking about the injuries that society inflicts on men, and it inflicts plenty. And I would encourage women, and I know most of my listeners are women, rather than raging at men, which of course proves that you're right, because whenever you're raging, you're right. Instead of raging at men, find some common cause with them. The plight of men and women in our society is actually not that different. Men have different resources available to them, and not all of them, but some of them have different resources available. And that does not mean that their lives are easy. It does not mean that they naturally take advantage of people. And I think that if you can look for the ground that you share, and this can be a conscious thought exercise, conversation, or just opening your mind to the struggles that men go through, this will help you get off the propaganda train and closer into reality. And you're likely to realize that you have a tremendous amount in common with the men in your life, and they have much more in common with you than gender politics would allow any contemplation or discussion of. And here again is one of those examples of something that is imposed on us from the outside that capitalizes on resentment and anger to prove itself right, and then everyone loses. So that's not necessary. This Mars retrograde calling for true introspection, calling for everyone to make contact with their masculine side and with the ways in which their masculine side has been hurt by the same factors that hurt just about everything and everyone else. And when we are healed, we are not going to be healed alone. It's not like the women will all heal from all their trauma and just kind of like leave the men behind. Like how does that make any sense? But sometimes I think that's what the plan is. This constant, ongoing reminder that men are obsolete and useless. So I promise you, men are not obsolete and useless, and you count on us for quite a bit more than you may recognize. And it's appropriate to express your gratitude, and it's appropriate to offer support back. You know, if you cook a meal for a man, that is not sexist. That is just you taking care of somebody that you love and appreciate, or just want to say thank you to. All right, I will leave you on that note. I'm planning, energy permitting, to be back. I want to get this before his funeral, with my reading of Carter's chart and my summary, and the 5-cent version of my political analysis is that if you're wondering why, basically every presidential administration is the same, no matter who's elected, somebody from the North or the South, or a Democrat or a Republican, or a guy with severe dementia, or a guy who spends his life pumping his fist in the air, and the same thing happens with every administration. That is actually true, and there's actually a reason why that is so. And I get into exactly what that reason is on Friday night's edition of Planet Waves FM, planetwaves.fm, or if you want to listen on Substack, planetwaves.org. Should I do this Friday edition, I will send it out to all of the Planet Waves lists so that you will see an announcement of it. All right, signing off from Kingston, New York at about 2:55 p.m. Thank you to my paying subscribers to make it possible for me to pay the electric bill and buy the food and pay the staff that makes it possible for me to basically be your astrological source 7 days a week. Pretty much if I do something, you find out about it pretty quickly. I don't do very much that does not come out over this channel. All right, once again, thinking of you. Lots of love, and bye for now.